Good morning, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and I am here in Laurel, Maryland, getting ready to go into another Clandestine Comics comic book show. This is the comic book show that I've talked about before. I've spotlighted on this channel. They alternate sites about once a month. They do a show. It's either in Laurel, Maryland, like today, or it's in Hunt Valley, Maryland, which is north of Baltimore. And this one's real close to the house, so I like this one. I can sleep in a little bit longer. I'm going to head in today. It's a rainy day here in the Baltimore area, and I don't know what I really am going to be looking for. To be honest with you, I'm not really in the mood to be buying a lot of comics today, but there's a comic show in my backyard. I can't pass it up. Maybe what we'll do is we'll focus on some small keys, something like, for example, maybe looking for some Invaders books or something like that. Just small books. I don't know. You never know when you go into the shows what you might find. I will definitely be looking for some of those bigger 2024 goals books, and that'll be pretty easy. I'll look on the walls, and then some of the dealers I know here, I'll definitely be looking through the boxes. Don't get me wrong, I'll still be looking for some of those bigger books, but to be honest, my mood is right now is just maybe some small books, and we'll get out of here, and we'll go back to the house, and I'll get them, inspect them, and then we'll do a show, and I'll show you guys what I get. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I just finished up here at the Clandestine Comic Book Show here in Laurel, Maryland. I hope you enjoyed some of the footage. I'm going to head home, and I will show you some of the great comics that I picked up. I kind of stayed on target with what I talked about in the introduction today, but I found one book. It's not a super big book. I don't even think it's a key, but it spoke to me, and I said it had to come home with me. So I'll show you that one too, and I will be back in just a moment. So sit tight. Let me get home and set up, and we will show off some books. All right, guys, so I finally made it back home after going to the Clandestine Comic Book Show in Laurel, Maryland. I had a great time, and
most of that has to do with the fact that I got to see people that I don't get to see any other time other than these comic book shows. There are dealers that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years that are great people, but even more was being able to see two of my favorite YouTubers in the comic book community there today. You've got Rob from Cool Stuff Collectibles, and Longbox Love Affair was there. You guys have got to check out their channels. I will leave links in my description today so you can go check them out. Honestly, to be honest with you, if you're watching my channel, you guys probably already are watching them. They have some great channels. They always have some great books and recommendations and are picking up great things. So follow both of them on YouTube. You guys will not be disappointed. But we get to the comics. And what did I say at the very beginning of the show today was I wasn't feeling it. I went in there, and as much as you think you're going to stay on target and you're going to look for those big keys that you want for your 2024 goals list, I just wasn't feeling like dropping the cash today. And I was like, maybe I'll look for the smaller keys. Invaders were an example, right? I keep saying that I've fallen into picking up a run of Invaders, and I'm doing pretty good at it, but it's kind of an easy thing to fall back on if you're not really wanting to drop the cash on those big keys that maybe that's what you kind of want, but you just don't feel like spending today. And that was me. I did not want to go in there and just drop this. So I went around. I didn't go in there first looking for that kind of stuff. I was looking for my keys, my big books, and I go around on the walls, and trust me, you saw the footage, the montage, there were plenty of great books. And even before I get going here, I will say that I think the prices at this show, as opposed to the last show I went to down in Annandale, Virginia at the Firehouse show, I think the dealers' prices were more on target today than I saw down there. I didn't see anything that was so outrageously priced. I just was being cheap today. I didn't feel like really spending a lot. So that didn't stop me. I went around the walls looking for some of those books, and I just, it wasn't feeling it. Nothing was popping out. And I said, okay, fine. Let's go back. Do exactly what you said you're going to do. Let's look for Invaders books. And if you don't find any, you're not going to be spending any money. Well, I did find some. And I went to several different dealers, and they had small little runs, maybe 5 to 10 issues at the most. And some had a few keys in it, but most of them were just some of the commons in that. And that's fine, because that's what I'm looking for. I mean, I'm looking to finish that run. It's 41 issues long, plus I think a couple of annuals, maybe giant sizes as well. I'm not sure about that. I got to double check on that part. But what I was finding was they had issues. The issues had issues. They had spine ticks. There was wear, and I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this run. It is going to be all high grade, super high grade. And I just wasn't seeing it. Go to one dealer, I found a small batch, nothing qualified. And the price was pretty good. I mean, the one dealer had a small batch and they were $5 a piece. And I'm sure he would have given a discount if I'd bought a whole batch, but even for $5, I didn't want to buy a lesser copy. I wanted a really good copy that was basically spine check free, at least on the front. No dog ears or soft corners or anything like that. So I went to another dealer, and one thing about the Invaders books is that it's not heavily sought out. So they are in the more common boxes that are just set out. And went to another dealer, I found more, and the conditions were not even close to what the last dealer was, and it just wasn't good. So I put those back, and I had about given up hope, but I stopped by one dealer that I've stopped at his table for the last 3 shows because he keeps setting out a Wolverine limited series number 2 and number 3 that are really good. I mean, you're probably going to get a good discount. If you go to the show and you see him and you see those Wolverine limited series books there, they're really good. They're not 9.8 though. And we talked about it because I looked at them, and that's what I'm trying to get for my collection. My goal for 2024 now is to finish that limited series, Frank Miller, Chris Claremont series, all 9.8s. I've got 1, I've got 4, but I still need 2 and 3. Now I've got 9.6s on those, but I'm looking for that 9.8 candidate. And that's how I recognize this dealer. is I kept seeing the same book up there in the stand, and we kind of laugh about it. It's like, oh, you still got those Wolverines. And he said, yeah, I know they're not 9.8s. And we can't, I know that at some point he will probably find a copy, and the next time he sees me, if he does have them, he'll let me know, I'm sure. But I started going through some of his bins, his boxes, and what did I find? I found a big run of Invaders books, and I will say that I've got books right here. I picked out some, and I was very selective. And the prices were a little bit higher, but he was offering 20% discount on whatever the prices were. I mean, honestly, the books were priced higher than they should have been, but with the discount, it took it closer into what they should be. And to be honest with you, I'm struggling now trying to find these at high grade consistently. I came to kind of find the same ones over and over again. So, unfortunately, when I've been buying these, I haven't quite put them together in a set. I really don't know which ones I still need, to be honest with you. I'm kind of going off from memory. But I go through the batch, and I'm literally sitting there for 20 minutes, half hour, and I'm looking at each one. I put one down. In this pile is okay, it's going back. It's got a spine tick, and it was really crowded in there, and you're trying to get to the bins with your elbows tucked in, and you're trying to look at stuff, and like, oh, this is not conducive to looking at comic books and buying stuff. But I was able to, at one point, move off to the side, and gives me a little bit of elbow room. So I was able to put down the books in one stack that definitely were going to go back. They definitely had a real color-breaking spine tick that I just wasn't going to buy. Then I had another stack that I was going to, okay, these look pretty good, but I need to have a little more time to look at them rather than this quick look. I just need to set them there, and we'll get back to them. And eventually I got down to it, and it's a pretty good stack. And we'll go through what I picked up there. But I also found out from some other things in his bins, and we'll get to that too. But why am I talking? Let's look at books, guys. So today's episode's all going to be about Invaders, at least at the beginning here. This is what I picked up from one. I mean, I literally bought stuff from 2 dealers today. Every one of these came from the first dealer except for the very last book today. But I picked up an issue number 5 here with this great Red Skull cover. I believe this is a Jack Kirby cover. This is very Jack Kirby. Oop. Let's put that back before I destroy the set here. But I picked up issue number 5. Number 18. I think that might be a Gil Kane cover, but I don't know who did the inking because it doesn't look... Yeah, it's one of those. I may have to look that up and see who actually did the inking, but it kind of looks the Gil Kane-ish. This was definitely Gil Kane. This is issue number 24. And this one I think I might have already had, but I'm not sure. Issue number 26. I think I already had this, but again, these were all really high grade, and that's kind of why I was getting them anyway. Number 37. Like I said, I might have duplicated a couple of these. Here's issue 39. And the one that I definitely didn't, I know that I didn't have was the very last issue. It's issue 41, and I didn't realize it is a square bound book. The issue 41 is a square bound. And this is, I wouldn't have picked it up if it had really any defect that I could really see. I mean, there is a little, it might be a little tick down there. It might be part of the artwork down at the bottom right there, but generally the spine looks really good. So that's what I got. I picked these up from the dealer, and this is all from the first 4 boxes on the side of his table. I still had another 8 to 10 boxes to go through, but as I said, it was really crowded. So once I kind of got through these, me and a couple of the other guys, we all did the shift, and I go around to the other side of the table, and I start going through the rest of the boxes, and he had a lot of great books. And then I got to one row of boxes that had some gems in there, and I probably would have passed if they'd had defects. But the fact was, these books were almost as immaculate as these Invaders, if not better. And it takes me back to my childhood. But I couldn't pass up because I ended up I could have probably picked up a bunch more of these, but they had the first issues from these particular comics, and they did actually have some of the ones from, they had a bunch of them, basically the whole run from this line of comics. And he had the issues 2, 3, and whatever run every one of these did. I wasn't going to buy all of this. I was pretty much just going to get issue ones that I wanted that were going to be in high grade. And I did put back some of them, but let's put the Invaders down for a second. And I'll show you what I picked up, because it takes me back to my childhood, to Atlas Comics. I want to say, I don't know the exact date, but I got to say this is probably 74-ish, right? But Atlas Comics, and you got Tiger Man #1. And I had a bunch of these when I was growing up, when I was first getting into the comics. I didn't have all of these stories, but I know I had Tiger Man books, and I was fascinated. I never did like this cover. I always liked the cover to the next couple issues better. But again, these look really good. I mean, sharp corners. I'm not seeing spine ticks, maybe pressable defects, but Atlas Comics, Tiger Man #1. Then we've got The Brute #1. And then we've got The Destructor. I'm going to say it like they did on Gravity Falls. Destructor #1. And probably the best one out of the batch, I think, is because Howard Chaykin, is you've got The Scorpion #1. And as I said, they had other issues, the sequential issues after this on some of these. And they did have a bunch of the other #1s that were part of this line, but a lot of those other #1s had ticks. And so and the price obviously was going up a little bit at this point. So I spent more than I expected to today, but I ended up with some really good books here. I mean, especially the Scorpion #1, that may get pressed, because actually, you get that to a 9.8, it's actually a pretty good book right there. Even 9.6 has some value to that one too. They may all get pressed, to be honest with you. But who knows what you're going to run into when you go to a show like this. I was open to anything today, or nothing, if you want to take it that way. And what I ended up finding, because I left myself open to this, was something like this. This takes me back to my childhood. And I think a lot of this, if every one of us, most comic book collectors, I think we collect what we like because it takes us back to maybe a happier time when you're a kid, and you remember these times. You're very fond of these times, and that's the way it is for me. It takes me back to when I had these books as a kid. So that's what I ended up picking up from this one particular dealer. But then I had one more book. Well, I'll be honest with you. What I did was I went around back to another loop of the room, and I ended up going back to several of the dealers that I had seen some things that I looked at, and like, do I want to still get this? I mean, some of the stuff from one dealer, they had a pretty nice Miss Marvel I'm sorry, not Miss Marvel #1. It was Miss Marvel is it 18, the first full appearance of Mystique. And I probably could have come down on that price. I got him down on that price a little bit, but like then after buying this, I didn't want to go and buy that too. So I passed on it. There was a little dog ear, tiny dog ear. So I talked myself out of spending any significant money after that. But I did want to make one more lap around the room. And I stopped by one dealer that I don't have they have a lot of Golden Age books. And I always go through those because Golden Age also includes Uncle Scrooge and Walt Disney and Donald Duck. So I'm always interested to see what they have on that kind of front. And they had a bunch of nice books. Nothing really was hitting there. And then I stumbled on this right here. And this is not a key. This is not, actually as a 9.8, you might do pretty good on it because it's got some age on it. But it's not a key. But it is a absolutely stunning cover of Justice League of America here by Neil Adams, which this is issue number 138. I have never seen this cover. And it was funny, I was talking to a friend of mine at the show, and I said, it's funny, after all these years, even though you may have any of these comics from certain eras of these comics. Now, I grew up on Justice League starting around issue 105, 106, 107, and probably going into the early 20s. And then there was this big gap until we got to the George Perez issues around 189, 190, and that time. I didn't have many of those comics in between. But I was still reading comics. I was still seeing them advertised. You would have thought that even if you don't have the books, you might have still had a working knowledge of these books. You might have seen these covers at some point. Well, I've never seen this cover, and I looked at this and I'm like, oh my God, this right here is an absolutely stunning Neil Adams cover right here. I mean, this is just, I mean, it's no question. I mean, look at that. What a great cover right there. And then to top it off, it was only $15. And I'm looking at the condition, and I'm going, this is some crazy good condition. And what's funny is when I bought the book, and the owner of this particular, he runs a comic book, I want to say it's a shop, it's Basement Comics here in the Baltimore area. He's also a presser as well. And as I said, he has really good books. Just not, sometimes I think the prices can be a little bit high, but I have picked up books from him in the past, and sometimes you can find some hidden gems in there for not that much. And $15 for this, and I'm looking at, that's a potential 9.8. It's actually can be pretty valuable. Well, he even made a point as that, yeah, this came from a batch. He said, yeah, these were all 9.8 candidates. So that was interesting that he recognized that part of it without me saying anything. So I didn't buy it because of wanting to make a profit from this. I bought this because, oh my God, this is a beautiful Neil Adams cover, and the condition of this book is just smoking. So I was real happy with this. And this right here was my haul from today, and nothing big. I didn't expect any of this today. Be honest with you, I didn't think I'd find any Invaders books. Now, I found a bunch, but I thought it would be what I typically find, which are, they're in lesser conditions. I don't want to say dollar bin books, but they're basically dollar bin books that are now $5 bin books because they're 45 years old. But I go to one dealer like that, and all of a sudden he had a giant batch, and they're all really good. Even the ones that had ticks on it, we're not talking bad comics. They just had a couple of non-pressable defects that I didn't want to buy. It wasn't like they were bad books. They just weren't as good as I'd like. That's why I picked the ones that I really liked there. So I couldn't be happier with this today. This was a fun comic book haul. Didn't do anything to get me down on my 2024 goals list, but good haul nonetheless. But guys, let me know what you think about today's haul by leaving me a comment in the comment section. And if you enjoyed today's episode, definitely hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my episodes that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, that's enough of the sales pitch. I'm out of here. I will see you for the next episode. And remember, every comic has a story.